Okay, welcome everyone to the virtual session today on fundraising. We'll go ahead and get started. We've still got some people joining, but want to make sure that we get started on time. Just a few housekeeping items. As usual, all attendees are in listen-only mode for the entire presentation. We are recording this, so it'll be available for you to share in a few days. We'll do our best to answer your questions at the end. Please use that question box on your dashboard to ask any questions, and Paulette Dallas will lead us through the Q&A. We'll also put together questions and answers to everything in a document to share with you. Please reach out to your RD with any additional questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Welcome to our virtual fundraising seminar today. I'm Stephanie McNeely, the Director of Development for the National Office. Just real quick, here's the agenda for today. Diana's going to chat with us a little bit about virtual events, new regulations, and some suggestions that might help you move some events forward. I will cover fundraising 101, some general basics about good fundraising practices and fundraising during a pandemic. We'll toss it over to Tiffany, and she will cover Day of Action, including some of the templates that are up there for you guys to download and use on Tuesday, so that's coming up soon. And then we'll see two examples of fundraising strategies and plans from Austin and Boston, and then we'll finish it up with some Q&A. So we'd like to leave plenty of time for you to ask any questions that you might have. Right now, I'm going to pass it over to Diana, and I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes.
Thank you, Stephanie. Actually, before I start this presentation, I wanted to announce something. So as you all know, we sent out our program report, and we asked you all to get it back. And we wanted to let you know that the first person that completed it and actually sent it back on the day it was sent out was Jacob Thurlow from Florida, and he will be receiving a gift box from us. So congratulations on being the first person to fill out the program report. Thank you to the rest of you that also filled out the program report. We truly appreciate it. With that, let's talk a little bit about fundraising. Historically, most of our affiliates have depended on events in order to raise money for the affiliate, operational costs, and also for scholarships. The events often were not just fundraisers, but were also great networking and marketing experiences. Events are important and are a good avenue to fundraise, but events should be part of a fundraising plan, and the plan should consist of other aspects as well. Traditionally, the program has not looked at individuals as a source of revenue and other ways to ask for money that are not involved in presenting an event. Due to the status of our country, which caused most of you to cancel your events, it forced us to look at alternative ways to raise money. So it is a great time for us to figure out alternative ways of fundraising. Today's presentation is going to be more focused on the concept of making a fundraising plan and ways to enhance the ways that you are raising money. As you know, we announced in late July that the ACE Mentor program would be virtual for the fall of 2020. This meant no meetings with the students, as well as none of our typical fundraising events. Some of you have gotten extremely creative and came up with some new ideas, and came up with the idea of virtual events, such as golf, trivia, wine tasting, and a walkathon. The walkathon was actually done by a company to support ACE. Know that the regional directors and the entire national staff are here to assist you, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have on any of these types of virtual events. One of the things that we wanted to share with you is we found the opportunity for virtual wine tasting. There's a company called Bottle Nation, and what they will do is they will do a 1-hour tasting event, even though the event itself could be longer. So for example, you could do maybe a half hour of introducing ACE or whatever message you want to send to the audience. Then the sommelier would come on for a 1-hour wine tasting, and then you could close out the event. Bottle Nation is waiving their fee for any of the ACE Mentor Program affiliates. Normally for up to 15 people, it would be a $275 fee. Since it is a fundraiser, they will waive that fee. The cost is $80 per box of wine. It's 4 full bottles, so it would serve 4 people. So it breaks down to $20 a person. The suggestion would be that a person signs up with 4 other people, sort of very similar to a golf foursome, pays the event fee for the 4 people, and the box of wine would be shipped to them. So they would only be with those 4 people. Please note that there are certain states that they cannot ship to. If you would like the contact information for Bottle Nation, please let us know. If you are planning a virtual event, like a golf outing or even the virtual wine tasting, walkathon, or trivia, know there are some rules. And it must have a disclaimer that any participation is at the attendee's own risk. We have to make sure that all the literature states that we are following all the appropriate rules. And even in the case of the wine tasting where the 4 people get together, we do ask them to follow the appropriate rules. We would suggest that every participant signs a waiver, especially for those events such as the golf outings. It should be a virtual check-in. If the golf outings, when the foursomes are at the golf course, there should be no large gathering or general meeting areas, and there should be no giveaways. So while we know that you are all trying to figure out the best way to fundraise, know there are some alternatives for virtual events to do that.
Thanks, Diana. So, as Diana mentioned, events should definitely be part of a comprehensive fundraising strategy. And we wanted today to talk about what that might look like and to share some examples of affiliates that have put such a strategy together. There's lots of different ways to raise money from individuals, from grants, from corporate sponsorships. You just have to keep asking. So we thought we'd put together some suggestions because there is a global pandemic, and I've gotten a lot of questions recently about, how do we ask? Should we do it now? Is now a good time? So these are the top 3 pieces of advice. The first one is to persist. I wake up every day thinking about how I'm going to raise money for ACE, and I'm sure many of us on this call think about ACE on a daily basis, but not everybody does. So let's remind them, let's continue to request donations, let's provide our constituents with updates on ACE programming, which should all be part of a regular communication strategy. Second, the moment is now. There really isn't a perfect moment to raise money or ask for money, and there's really no such thing as having the perfect time. So why not now? And the third is to be prepared, to have a solid plan in place, to know your expenses, to know how much money you're trying to raise, to know who your targets are, but also to be flexible because obviously in these times right now, we've had to pivot our own fundraising strategy a couple times already this year. We'll talk about this a little bit later when the affiliates present on their specific examples. The fundraising cycle. So I wanted to take a step back a little bit. I know a lot of us are focused on events heavily, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about what the fundraising cycle looks like and how, even though asking can be scary, it's only a small little part of the full entire fundraising strategy, right? So the first thing is to know your donor, who supports your cause and who might support your cause. So is that mentors? Is that former mentors? Is that board members? Is it former board members? Is it parents? You know your constituents better than I do, but that is the first thing we want to identify. Second, plan your approach. Which is the best way to reach donors, right? So if your donors are email people, are they letter writers? Are they somebody who wants to have a one-on-one conversation? Let's know our people and let's approach them where they are. And then the third is to make the ask. So we know who they are, we know where they are. Now we have to ask them. A lot of times you don't get unless you ask, and maybe you'll have to ask multiple times. But obviously that's the most important step in the cycle. following that, people just want to know they made an impact, right? So we want to thank them regularly. We want to tell them what their gift did. We want them to know how much we appreciate them and make them truly feel good for giving. And then last, keep the conversation going. Can you share stories with them? Can you maybe introduce them to a student, even if it's via Zoom? Can you share videos? Can you share testimonials? How can you keep them engaged in the conversation so that when the cycle comes back around, you can ask again? As we talk about sharing stories, ACE Day is coming up. It's actually Tuesday. We're all very excited about it. It's the first time we've done it. And as you know, if you've been on other webinars, you know that the intent of this day is to raise excitement about ACE, to get us all over social media, and to help you promote whatever your call to action is. But we wanted you to be prepared. So talking today about all the things, you can't just kind of go online on Tuesday and start tweeting. There's some background stuff that needs to happen, making sure you have the right links for registration or for giving or whatever it is your call to action might be on Tuesday, making sure you can accept donations and registrations. Make sure your website is updated, that you have the right emails listed if people are trying to reach out to you. Know the hashtags, know who to tag. Definitely tag ACE Mentor on that day, so we'll retweet you and make sure you get your information shared with all of our partners. And then make sure your email list is updated. So if you're sending an email to your constituents, they're receiving it, and you can track the data on that as well. And prepare your stuff ahead of time. I'm going to toss it to Tiffany in a second, and she'll be able to walk us through some of the templates we've provided. But the best way to do it is to do it early, schedule all your stuff, and then it'll just flow seamlessly on Tuesday. That being said, I'll give it to Tiff and let her cover all of the cool stuff that she's put together for us.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. So in anticipation of our upcoming ACE Day of Action, we've developed a brand new page that can actually serve as a quick one-stop shop for your planning tools. The new page can be quick accessed by the link right here on the virtual page, which you all should be familiar with, under virtual fundraising, but you can also access it under the news tab right here, ACE Day 2020. So we have just a little under 4 days left, about 3 days, until we take action. And we know that it's been an unpredictable year, especially when it comes to program support. And ACE National has been working on various ways to help you support you in your program initiatives. We've heard back from affiliates all over the country with multiple priorities. And we just really wanted to create a platform that will bring awareness to the ACE program, and most importantly, your affiliate, in order to help you promote your program and showcase your amazing energy. So what's your call? Are you actively fundraising and can use this as a day to garner more support from your sponsors? Can ACE Day serve as a call for your volunteers? How about maybe even student or mentor registration? Are you looking to increase your numbers or possibly re-engage students and mentors on a virtual platform that you may not have been able to participate in ACE due to either geography or logistics? More specifically, actually, everybody knows that the markets are different, across the country. So I know Greater Philadelphia is actually still in a holding pattern right now regarding public fundraising, but they do plan on using this day to, celebrate and promote their pivot to virtual programming with the hopes that it's going to raise a bit more awareness as well. And also, please don't forget about your alumni. With the development of our virtual programming, anything is possible, and we can begin to reconnect and re-engage our alumni in more meaningful ways. ACE National, we're definitely making that call on Tuesday. But whatever your call is, make sure you share your ACE stories and spotlight your mentors, your volunteers, your students, and especially your sponsors and board members on social media. And just to, really reiterate Stephanie's point, please make sure that you tag us, and we will absolutely make sure we share to our networks as well. So in order to make this as easy as possible, we've included a few links to a variety of tools that you actually may already be familiar with. So there's the pro tips, the sample emails, the timeline, social media guide. Here's some sample images, but more recently we've added a few new tools to the affiliate, mentor, and sponsor social media packages. So these are just zip files with the information specific to each audience. So for example, here is the mentor toolkit. And what you can do is actually just go ahead, send this to your mentors and ask them to, provide any photos, images. You could use this template, as an overlay, but get them involved too, because I'm sure that there is a lot of information that they may have that we can absolutely use their networks to share as well. So we are really, really encouraging to share everything throughout the day. Our ACE network of students, volunteers, and sponsors is massive. So we're really, really hoping to make some noise across the country on Tuesday and bring some positive energy into our programs. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Allison with the Austin, Texas affiliate.
My name is Allison Wilson. I am an architect and the sustainability director at AirSand Growth, in addition to being the board chair for the ACE Austin program this year. So I wanted to share a little bit about what the history of our fundraising has looked like and where we're headed this year, in hopes that it can be influential or inspirational for how you might consider your affiliate. We're a relatively young affiliate. We were founded in 2015, and to be blunt about it, our 2015-2016 season didn't have a fundraising goal. It had an, oh God, please let us make sure we have money for pizza next week. And please God, let us have enough money to award at least one scholarship. And gratefully we did both of those things, both our pizza and our first scholarships, but it's really matured a lot since then. So it took us a little while and a few seasons to really establish a cost per student. And in that time, we started to set up our sponsorship levels. The earliest one I could find was actually this 2016-2017 donor sheet that you can see on this screen. And then for the 2019-2020 and 2020-2021 seasons, this has been upgraded, and our fundraising goals have started become more codified with time. What really kind of catalyzed our program was that, we leaned very heavily into our corporate sponsorship, but we threw a really successful event. So in 2017, we threw our second 11 by 17 art auction, and we netted $20,000. And for our program at the time, in its second year of mentorship, this was an overwhelmingly exciting amount of money, and we didn't totally know what to do with it. So in our best vision, it was give it away, right? So you can see between 2015, 2016, and 2016, 2017, how much our scholarship increased. And there was a lot of reason for that. So at the same time that our scholarship amounts have gone up each year, so too has our recruitment. So, we had this idea together as a board that our giving and scholarships needed to track with how quickly our student body was growing. You can see on that percentage number, in the first 5 years of our program, we've had 460% growth, which is frankly unsustainable, and it's not something we hope to continue, to be honest. What we really hope to do now is kind of become more stable. So this is the first season that we're going in with a known fundraising goal. On that first slide, I had said that in 2019-2020, we had a target of $100,000, but that developed late in the game. Our board just turned over 2 weeks ago, and we just had our board kickoff for this coming academic year. And going in right now, knowing that our target is to raise $105,000 and give away 25 of it in scholarships, is way ahead of the game for us historically. So we're quite excited about that. We have thrown other events. Generally speaking, our affiliate does not run on event dollars. We primarily run on corporate sponsorship and grant money. But we have thrown a number of these kinds of events, and we have pivoted some of them to how to do them remotely. So we've done remote trivia nights and those sorts of things on virtual platforms, and have been successful in kind of the fundraising aspects, but also the networking components and the mentor recruitment and the kind of development aspect that these events also provide. So as I mentioned, after a few years, our affiliate had really built up some credibility in our community, and what we were doing has started to catch on. So we really updated these fundraising levels. To be honest, the first time around, we didn't know what we could get, and people were very generous with us. So we increased the price to play for some of these so that we could further advance and grow our affiliate commensurate with the kind of student recruitment numbers we were seeing. You'll see with these, our most popular scholarship, our most popular sponsorship levels are actually the $3,000 and $5,000 levels, because this is where the scholarship money starts to kick in. What's been awesome about that is it does sort of give us some stability of we know what folks are likely to donate. What is challenging about that, though, is with the fixed money dedicated to scholarships, it does limit how much funding we have available for sort of general affiliate needs, whether it's food or space or technology or whatever the case may be. So that kind of is our existing struggle at the moment. Like I said, over the years, we've kind of gotten to be more mature. So this year we have, our $105,000 fundraising goal with an annual scholarship distribution of $25,000. And what's great is that going into this, we have operating capital to start the year. We have a small rainy day fund. And we do have, a number of dollars kind of banked for scholarships we have awarded but have not yet distributed. So we award scholarships to both juniors and seniors, and some of that money has not been requested yet. So we're just kind of sitting on it and hanging out with it. And so that's actually an opportunity for us as we move forward. As far as where our income comes from, there are a whole bunch of different places. So we receive a number of in-kind donations. I know lots of affiliates do. Our largest one is actually for space and parking. The University of Texas Systems building provides the space for each of our meetings. Our whole affiliate comes together every week or has. And so now we're going to be doing that on Zoom. Which is a little bit different. Our corporate sponsorships are a big piece of it. Like I said, we do ask our board. We have an advisory board, and associate board structure. And so we ask those folks to participate in the fundraising of this as well. We do historically have events, like I said, these tend not to be our largest contributions. And then we have some fundraising campaigns as well as grants, and then ideally interest. We don't make a ton of money off of interest right now, but we're hoping that's going to change. So as this has progressed, part of it is also how do we communicate this to our board every month to ensure that people know how we're tracking and understand what our needs are and who our next round of asks are in the coming month. And so the pie graph, we're at the beginning of our fundraising cycle for this coming year. So you can see the vast majority of our funds at the moment are remaining. But we show this graph and the column of information on the right at every board meeting so that everybody knows where we're at and where we're tracking, and we can kind of see over time when our donors are accessing and working with us to help us reach our goals. This has also taken some time to mature over various seasons, but our board is structured into a number of different committees. And so you can see on the left hand kind of who is responsible for spending those dollars and what kind of budget we have for this. Going into this, what it empowers our folks to do is, as an example for final presentation night, right? Who knows what 2021 will look like, but the grand scheme of things, the reality is as long as growth makes that happen within $20,000, they don't need to ask permission. They can just make it happen. And for our organization, which is entirely volunteers, we have no paid staff, that's really useful to be able to empower everyone to make decisions kind of, but within a box that we know we're going to be able to fund and pay for. So you can see sort of the different ways we have this structured. And so this is another one that we share every month with our board to be able to update, our expenses to date and where we're tracking on these so that, you only can get 30 days out of whack before you really can bring it back together with the board, reconcile how we're doing. So I wanted to share just a couple of lessons learned to close out my time. Like I said, our affiliate is starting its 6th year, and our fundraising goals have really matured over time. The most critical statistic for that was establishing our cost per student and sticking to our scholarship budget. In hindsight, as much as we were super excited to have had a really successful event that allowed us to give away a whole lot of money, and there were a lot of good reasons to do that. We probably should have sat on a little bit more of that and kept it as part of our rainy day fund and used it to kind of absorb the growth that our affiliate was experiencing more gracefully. As you're able to, starting a growth or rainy day fund is super advisable. We all know our industry is very cyclical, and being prepared for that makes it easier to weather that storm. Finding multiple income streams so that you're not overly reliant on any one or the other is critical. And then considering greater rigor around scholarships. So I mentioned that we have $40,000 sitting in the bank for scholarships awarded but not dispersed. And the challenge we face is that we have not historically been very rigorous with our scholarship recipients about when they can ask us for that money. So basically, once we award that scholarship, we have to sit on the money and be ready to give it away whenever a student asks. And that's changing for us this year so that we can hopefully start to put some of that in some higher yield interest kind of accounts that will allow us to, if we award money to a junior and we know we're going to sit on that money until, let's say, August of the following year, and we're going to sit on it for 18 months anyway, it can be doing more good for us as part of an interest growth fund versus sitting in, our normal bank account. So at any rate, like I said, we've changed a lot over time, and hopefully that's instructive. And if you have any other questions or our Austin affiliate can be of use to you, please feel free to reach out and I can connect you with some of our other folks who work in fundraising.
Thanks, Allison. I'm gonna toss it over to Jen. We did have one question, and I know that you have to take off. So somebody asked how you decided on the $500 a year cost.
As our cost per student?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so, nope, you're okay. As we went through a few seasons, we started being able to look at what our graduated enrollment was that finished the entire program, and being able to divide out our costs against that. And then there's a little bit of rounding in there to kind of get to a nice clean number. I want to say at various points it was anywhere between 312 and 417, right? But to give us a clean number to work with, 500 was a nice way to do that. So over time that number evolved to get us there.
Cool, thank you. All right, well, I'm going to pass it over to Jen now from Boston.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. ACE of Greater Boston traditionally, or at least for the last several years, has had a very successful networking event for the industry, and that's been how we raise our money. Most of the money comes from sponsorships at the event. Last year we raised just over $200,000, mostly sponsorships, a little bit from tickets, a silent auction, and donations in the room. Next slide. So whenever you do an event like that, of course, there's costs associated with the food, the alcohol, the location. So we spent $52,000 to put the event on. So our net was actually $150,000. And you can see there in this top photo the way that we would acknowledge some of the sponsors at the event. So that was sort of typically how we were acknowledging them, and they would be seen in front of their peers giving money to ACE. Next slide. And we raised the money primarily to fund our scholarships for our seniors. Last year, we gave away $152,000 to 31 seniors going on to college in ACE fields. Next slide. So we canceled the fundraiser because of COVID, and we set a goal to raise $150,000 virtually this year. And we have a three-pronged strategy. Again, sponsors are going to be the majority of the income, so sponsors being firms usually that are giving money in exchange usually for some kind of recognition that they're looking for. Next slide. We also, for the first time, we're soliciting individuals. We have received money from individuals in the past, but we have never solicited it. It's just been, somebody found us and decided to give. So we decided to make a formal ask to first board members and then later to mentors. Next slide. And then grants. So this presentation is going to talk mostly about sponsors and a little bit about individuals. The grant process is different, and it takes about 6 to 9 months, so I don't really have much to report yet on that. But I do know a lot about writing grants, so if people are interested, hit me up. Next slide. So this is a screenshot from our affiliate website, and you can see at the bottom of the screenshot there is some verbiage about joining us as a sponsor. Very similar text went into the emails that went out personally to the different sponsor firms. So they're seeing, if they click through to our website, they're seeing the same messaging that we decided to use. And basically the messaging is we had to cancel our fundraiser because of COVID. The kids shouldn't suffer. So we're raising money now for our class of 2021. So we are in a pretty good position in terms of the fact that we are raising money not for what we've already spent, but for next year's class. So we had to cancel. The kids shouldn't suffer. To the extent that your firm's having internal discussions about Black Lives Matter or diversity, that, you know, it's important to know that ACE does help diversify the professions, and so this may align with your philanthropy goals otherwise. And we know that it's a rough time, but if you are able to sponsor, we hope you'll sponsor at any amount. So that was sort of our messaging. And we decided to use a platform to allow credit card gifts. We chose the platform Give Lively. And later in the presentation, I'll tell you about some other platforms that you could consider. But just in general, when you are doing a virtual event, you want to make sure it is super easy for people to donate. Yes, you want to accept checks, but you also want to have it so if they're the kind of person who just wants to click through and put their $500 sponsorship on a corporate card, they can do that. So you want to make it easy. Next slide. So we set a goal of $150,000 by next Tuesday, ACE Day of Action. And when I prepared these slides, we were up to 138,000. We actually have now exceeded our goal. We're at 153,500 right now in funding that we have raised through this campaign. So this is a screenshot from our Give Lively page. So if you had clicked on that link on our webpage, or if you got an email, personal email from one of our board members to you, a contact at another firm, you would have probably clicked through directly to this, and it has sponsor levels and sort of what you get based on the sponsor levels. We were lucky that we had done a video. Earlier this year, we were planning to debut it at our event, but that gave us just something that we could show on the page. But I think you could also just have a slideshow of photos here or something that shows the students that they're helping, I think is helpful. Next slide. So instead of them being thanked at the event and having their logo up on banners or programs at the event, we are acknowledging sponsors on social media. And it seems that most of our sponsors, LinkedIn is the one that they care about more because they're on it with other, you know, a lot of the other companies that they might work with across the industry are on LinkedIn too. So although we're collecting all their social media handles and using the ones that are most relevant, most of our stuff is going out on LinkedIn. We're creating these graphics that you see on Canva, which is a free, layout program, and asking them for their logos and putting them on and acknowledging them through various weekly announcements. We're also acknowledging sponsors on our website. Again, we made these graphics on Canva, and these graphics are slides, and you can also see on a different place on our website, it's done as more of a slideshow video. So it kind of scrolls through with some nice music, and you see all of our sponsors in one place. And the sponsors seem to like this kind of recognition. So on a separate page, so using Give Lively again as our platform, we have a sponsorship page, and then we have an individual donation page. And the real difference between this is the amounts that we're soliciting. So when you go to the sponsor page, the smallest amount that we're soliciting is $500. And then both pages have that bottom thing that says any amount is welcome and you can give at any amount. But this one sort of starts you at the $25 level and works you up to possibly $5,000, which was the most we thought any individual might give. Other than that, the pages are very similar, and we make sure we link to them. And so far, this is mostly board gifts. And some people that, like some board members, have shared it socially. So some of these are coming from friends of board members, but we will be soliciting more broadly to our mentor community. And again, we were surprised. We thought because of the downturn, we couldn't expect much, but some people would be generous. But we set an original goal of $5,000, and we have increased that goal to $8,000. Next slide. So again, we use the platform Give Lively. We decided that was the best one for us. There are a number of similar platforms. Some of them that I have used in other places or that I know of include GoFundMe Charity, which some of you might know as CrowdRise. That was the former name, but GoFundMe acquired CrowdRise. Fundly, Donate Kindly, Snowball, 99 Pledges. They're all very similar. You want to look at each one of these credit card processing things has both platform fees and credit card fees. And so you want to look at minimizing those based on how you think your gifts are going to come in. Give Lively, actually, we got a deal on the beta version. And so we have a no platform fee and only credit card processing fees. So for us, that made sense. You also want to look at what kind of functionality the site offers. Does it offer peer-to-peer options, meaning people being able to create their own pages that they can then be soliciting out, team fundraising, personal pages of other kinds. Next slide. There are also slightly different approaches to be able to collect money from credit cards. You might be using a fundraising software like eTapestry. That's widely used because it's relatively inexpensive, and they have their own proprietary credit card processing platform called Just Giving. You may also be planning things that are more auction-y, online auctions, or you've traditionally done an event live auction and now you want to shift to online. If you use a processor like Greater Giving or Bidding for Good, they will allow you to show all your auction items, but then also allow you to have different sponsorship levels and fund a need levels. So you can accomplish a lot of this on an auction site, but I would only recommend Greater Giving and Bidding for Good if you have things to auction off as well. And then Facebook fundraisers are super accessible and easy to set up, so that's the good side of them. The bad side of them is, as a fundraiser, the back end does not work terribly well. For those of you who've used it, you probably know that the default on Facebook, for instance, is not to share the donor information with the nonprofit, so it makes it really hard to thank your donors appropriately, to solicit them again next year, but it can be something that can spread virally. And for instance, if you're in a situation where you're really stuck and you realize you don't have the costs, the money you need to do your program this year, and it's like a crisis situation, that's when a Facebook fundraiser can be great, because your board members can really sincerely post something up on Facebook like, unless we get this money, these kids aren't going to get X, and it can just spread and people can give. And so it's great for like filling one-time holes, in my opinion, but I don't look to it for ongoing stuff. Next slide. So you want to plan for a few weeks. This is actually, Stephanie's slide was much more helpful on this. There is a cycle to fundraising, but anyway, don't think you're going to jump in tomorrow and have a credit card thing set up. And you need a few weeks to sort of assemble your team, get your fundraising ask refined, create your plan, your systems for tracking, set up your platform and your credit card processing. Just that alone, setting up your credit card processing, can take several weeks because they need to confirm that you're not a scammer and that you really want to do merchant credit card processing, and that you can do the accounting necessary. So this is just an example of our spreadsheet that we share with each other. All of the people who are doing fundraising on my team are going in and adding things all the time to it, and then I'm overseeing it. So most of the work for our affiliate for fundraising is done by my board members, who are awesome. I thought one of my board members was going to be on this call, but I don't think he made it. My board members are soliciting their own firms and then firms that they work with. And they've been doing this for the networking event for a long time, and now they're doing it for the virtual. The back end work, I'm a staff person for the affiliate, and I'm doing a lot of the back end work, which includes the thank yous, the receipts, the accounting, invoices, ACH requests, collecting logos, making graphics. So there is a lot of work, and you want to make sure you have set aside the time needed even to do a virtual event. So you want to set a date to launch and a date to finish. We launched July 1. We had $30,000 already raised. It had been raised from sponsors who, from when we were going to do the event in person. And we went back to them and asked their permission, can we keep this money? And they said yes. So we already had 30,000. And then we aim to finish next Tuesday on the ACE Day of Action. That was just sort of, we had already sort of talked about a campaign that went about a month, and we actually extended it a couple weeks to be able to have it align with ACE Day of Action because it just seemed like a nice way to be part of that national conversation. So you can see from what I'm talking about, ours is not really an event. Like you could have a virtual event where everyone's supposed to log in at a certain time and see a speaker or something like that. Ours is like a campaign, a virtual campaign, I guess is how you might say it. This is just my final advice, is that whenever you're doing fundraising, try to have something that is fun or add some competition to get people going. So I noticed that my board members, although they were all rared up when we had our first meeting to plan this, that no one had made their asks yet. And then I thought back to this running team that I used to be part of, which raised money for my daughter's public school. And we used to run a 200-mile race dressed as the Flash for who knows why. And anyway, so we raised money, and when I used to buy things and give out prizes to people who did the most fundraising. So one year I gave out this bathrobe that the guy's wearing in the front to the top fundraiser, and that became an annual tradition. People used to fight over who was going to get the bathrobe. But we also had a lot of the things people are wearing are little prizes that we had. So I would say something like the first person to get 2 sponsors today or 2 donors today is going to get a really special, exciting prize. And it would be like socks that had the Flash on them or whatever. But that generated a lot of talking, laughing, just fun related to fundraising. And it was really nice if you can build that in. So this time I actually did do a challenge to my board members to get them going. They didn't know what it was going to be, but one of my board members just received a bathrobe with the ACE logo on it that I had done by, like, I had someone embroider the ACE logo, and then I sewed it on a bathrobe and sent it to him, and he's supposed to wear it on our next fundraising Zoom. And now we have another prize. That was the most sponsors in July, and now we have another prize, the most sponsors overall, the most new sponsors overall by next Tuesday. So whichever board member gets the most new firms in, because we wanted to make it something that was kind of open to some of our. Anyway, so that was something that we added in to make it fun. And I think that's it. Next. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. I've been doing fundraising for a long time. I'm new to ACE relatively. I haven't done quite a full year yet, but I am an experienced fundraiser for nonprofits. So I may be able to help you if you have a question.
Thank you so much, Jen. This is such great information. I saw some questions popping up. That's a couple of for you, it looks like, but I will pass it to Paulette to read those questions out, and we can answer.
Stephanie, before you go on, I just want to make one comment.
Sure.
Tell you, and Jen wasn't around when this happened, but for a number of years, Boston used to raise about $20,000. They gave out one scholarship. One person did it, and one year, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, they went to the all affiliates meeting and saw what other people were doing and said, we need to and can do better, and put together this fundraising committee, fundraising plan. So they went from 20 to 200,000, probably 4 years. So no, it can be done.
Oh, and I do see Tom Aldrich from my board is now on this webinar, and he is one of our great fundraisers. So.
Yes, thank you, Jen. Sorry, I was on the call. I was driving. So great job.
Thanks, guys. Paula, you wanna get to that question box and see what kind of questions folks are asking?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the question is ACE Day of Action going to be an annual event? And I thought you would like to answer that.
Absolutely. I did get some comments that were private messaged to me though, saying that maybe August is not the best time, that there might be a different time of year that would work for everyone. So I promised that we would have this day. It's going to be a great day, and then we'll do a little debrief afterwards and see, next time we do it, when might be the best time. But definitely annually.
Perfect. And then another question came in was, and this one might have been answered in this presentation, but Lauren was wondering, how long did the fundraising campaign take you? How far in advance did you plan with your social media images and creating the pages? And I believe this was for Jennifer. Maybe she wants to just do a quick recap. I think she did cover that, but just maybe a recap of that.
Yeah, I think that we really started planning in earnest in June. And so it was a pretty quick pivot. However, we had the list of all the sponsors that we had solicited last year. So there was a lot of ground already covered. And we did have that individual donor page already set up on Give Lively. So we already had a Give Lively account. However, on there, I then created a new page for sponsors. So some of the groundwork had already been done. I would say if you were starting from scratch, you might want to plan for 3 months of getting off the ground, 2 to 3 months.
Perfect, thank you. And then Diana, this one is about the wine tasting. For the wine tasting, I assume that the cost is $80 to the vendor. How is a chapter pricing that to raise funds?
So that would be totally up to you. Where I got this idea is I went to one for another organization, and the tickets were $100 a person. So it would be up to you to really determine what you want to price it at. But the total cost of it would be $80.
Perfect. Okay, and then another question. Can someone talk a little bit about the walkathon?
Yes, so there was a company, and what they did is they asked their employees to participate in a walkathon, and they had 2 charities they picked. One was ACE, and then they asked them to commit to, in a 2-week period, to walk as many miles as you could and track it. And then they got sponsorships so people said, I'll give you $1 for every mile that you walk. And I think they made about $1,000.
And that's it for the questions so far. Dan had talked about Nashville. They have, they do a lot of fundraising. So Dan, maybe reach out to Zoo, your RD, and let him know, and he will bring back those best practices to share with all of us. We are always looking for suggestions and best practices from all of you. So please reach out to your RD if you have any suggestions on best practices that you didn't see pop up on the webinar today. Get In San Diego says that they have a 5-year slush fund. So if their funds are not claimed within 5 years of being awarded, it rolls back into the main fund, and that seems to be working for them with their funds.
Steph, I want to bring up one thing.
Yeah.
I was on the call with our accountant yesterday, and he brought up accounting of events when events are canceled. So we have to be very, very careful. If any of you collected money for an event in the spring and then canceled it or postponed it till you thought the fall, and then ultimately are not going to have it at all, you have to be very careful that you go back to the person who donated, let them know that the event has been canceled, and ask them if they would convert it to a donation. You also have to give them the option to have it as a refund. What we're finding is that most people are being very generous and saying, no, keep it. Then make sure that when you do your thank you, the entire amount is deductible because there's no expense. So if you were going to do a golf outing and it was $200 per golfer expense and they gave you $500, tax deductible would be the difference in that. So you need to make sure that your thank you letters or your receipts are very clear that it is now a donation and it's fully tax deductible. The third recommendation is to not offer that you would hold it for next year. Because of how our accounting is, it just makes for the accounting for your affiliate more difficult. In addition, if you hold it, that person may gave you $1,000 for this year, you hold it, they're not going to give you $1,000 next year. But if you gave them the option to convert it to a donation, they may give you another $1,000. So you're going to shortchange yourself if you offer the option to hold it. So that was the recommendation of our accounting firm, was to not offer that option, but to be very careful that to make sure that you go back to all your donors, let them know their option is refund or conversion, and to make sure you account appropriately for the conversion.
Thanks, Diana. And while you were talking, I did see another question come in on the percentage of corporate sponsors outside of general contractors. Interesting question. I can speak for the national sponsor list that about 60% of our sponsors are GCs. I don't know if RDs or maybe Jen, you want to speak to your percentage. Ours is definitely high.
I don't have the percentage right off the top of my head, but we do, I would say GCs are a large part, but we do have a number of subcontractors and vendors that do sponsor. And then we do have architecture and engineering firms that sponsor. I would say the GCs are sponsoring at the larger levels.
So Taylor says they're about 85%, which is a lot, of general contractors. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak further on that. Taylor,
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. I was only asking because I know that at least locally, that's historically most all.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we did, National hasn't had a full-time fundraising, has been volunteer until I got here a year and a half ago, which has been awesome. But one of the things that we did in our plan was to say, okay, well, these general contractors are great. We're so grateful for their support. Who are they working with that might also support us? And so we have two sectors, technology and insurance specifically, that we've gone after. And that's been pretty successful in getting new gifts. If there are no other questions, I want to thank Allison and Jen today for their great presentations. Allison had to hop off early, but she said if anybody has questions specifically for her, she's happy to respond via email. And we're always here too. So as you work through your own plans, you have questions about Day of Action, please don't hesitate to reach out. And that's it. Thank you guys for being here today.